Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. It's lovely to have you here today. As you drop in, it would be great if you could just say hello. Let me know where you are calling in from today. We've had people on here before from the US, from the UK, from New Zealand, so not just Australia. So be really interesting to know where you're from. Now, quick reminder that you do need to be logged into YouTube to get the most out of today's session. So you can use a Gmail address. That's probably the simplest thing to log in and be able to communicate here with me. I know that there are a few excuses today. A few people are going to be watching back on the recording, so you won't be able to use the chat if you're watching this back on the recording. But shout out to you for if you are coming along and watching the recording. You're still going to get a lot out of today's session. So I'm really excited to be here and to be sharing what I am going to share with you. I'm very passionate about helping people realize their dream of becoming an author. And that's what I'm hoping that you're going to get out of today's session. Just one step in the right direction can make all of the difference and set you up for an enjoyable and rewarding experience, as you're going to soon see. So what I'm going to share with you today has made a massive difference in people's lives. Everything we will walk through is proven and very practical. I'm really big on making sure this stuff is super valuable and is going to help you no matter where you are on your author journey, right? It's all based on my actual work with published authors. So the more that you can share about yourself today and your unique situation, the more I can help you. So I would love for you to decide to commit to that during this session. Really go all in and get the most out of this session. So if you are watching along, please just commit to getting the most out of today's session. So first off, I would like to talk about you for a minute. A potential author. Becoming an author is a bucket list item for so many people, and it's become the thing you do if you're in business these days. So if you're a subject matter expert, a business professional, a thought leader, it doesn't matter what you call yourself, right? You're known for some kind of area or field of expertise, or you might be working towards being known for something, right? Digital marketing, leadership, HR, networking, cooking, writing or editing, whatever it is. Ultimately, it is because of this that you are here today, right? Because you want to share what you do and what you know with other people. And you see writing as a perfect vehicle to do that. Or you might already be blogging, you might have written a white paper, you might be writing, even a weekly email to your list. You've all experienced some form of writing in some kind of format, which means you've already experienced what a huge task it is. Right? Let's not kid ourselves here, right? If you've ever heard that quote, it's often attributed to Hemingway, I think. There is nothing to writing. All you do is sit down at a typewriter and bleed, right? Who has ever felt like that? Have you ever felt like that? Like, if you felt like whenever you've tried to write something, you just sit down and all you're doing is bleeding, trying to get those words out, right? That is definitely something that I have felt before. So why? Why is it so hard? Because writing is so personal, right? It's so engaging, so influential, so valuable. It's so hard to meet that expectation we have for ourselves and our writing. So we all remember the book that has changed our life. So I actually want you to think about that for a minute, right? I'm curious to know the name of the book that has changed your life for the better. So if you are watching this live, type it into the comments field. And if you're watching this back on the replay, right, have a think about that. What is the book that has changed your life for the better? Like The Alchemist, that is one that comes up a lot. That's one that a lot of people talk about, right? This book is probably one that you recommend to people over and over again. It's dog-eared, it's underlined, it's falling apart on your bookshelf. You know, back in the day, it probably would have been one of those books that had been banned or even burned, you know, which just demonstrates a book's power. You know, like they actually did burn books back in the day. What I would like you to see is that it's not just the writing in that book that is so life-changing for you, right? As the reader, as the audience. It is the writing experience of that book that was also life-changing for the author, the person who wrote it. We are talking about pouring your heart and your soul, your life's work and knowledge into something that you're going to have in your hands for many years to come, you know, bearing all for people you don't even know yet. There's a quote from Seth Godin that I heard in his podcast. You know, he says a book is not like a video, right? It takes 9 hours to read a book and about 90 seconds to watch a YouTube clip. So it's such an important product, a tool. It's so important that you just don't put any old thing, any old crap out into the world when you write one. If you care about what you do, then you care about what you share and how that not only makes you look, but more importantly, how it makes you feel. There's a really cool quote from Lady Gaga. She says, when you make music or write or create, it's really your job to have mind-blowing, irresponsible, condomless sex with whatever idea it is that you are writing about at the time. So you are here because you want something you can feel good about and feel good about giving out. Would you agree? Yeah? So our goal today is to help you get an understanding of what you need to do to produce this kind of book, something you feel good about giving out. So my final ask is that you take action on the ideas that resonate with you here today. And to help you do that, if you choose to hang around with me until the end, I'm going to share with you a particular tool that I use with my clients to get them going on their author journey. So it's probably like the most valuable tool that clients have actually said has changed the whole trajectory of their whole approach to writing. At the end of today's session, I'm going to show you where you can access that because it's helped people like you overcome the challenges, overcome the fears, the roadblocks they faced at the beginning of the book journey, which is exactly where you are now. Because right now, you could be one of these things, right? You might be confused or overwhelmed by the sheer majority of writing and publishing information out there, right? How do you know you have a good idea? What is your main point? How do you structure this thing? Have you got the right structure? What does editing entail? How long is this thing going to take? How do you print? How do you get people to buy your book? You hate the idea of wasting time, effort, and energy, say, 6 to 12 months, investing money into something that never gets finished. I mean, what would be the point of that? You're frustrated by what's in your head that you can't get out, that you can't communicate clearly. Quite often I hear, I'm a speaker, not a writer. I want to be able to pack a punch with what I'm saying, but I can do that with words, but I can't when I put it onto paper. You might also be unsure of the approach you're currently using, whether your writing is any good, which could be why you're stuck on either beginning the writing or you've got so far and completely abandoned it. So who on earth do you ask for help? I want to have people around me that I trust who can show me what I actually need to do. And you might be fearful, right? Fearful of putting something out there that you are ashamed of, right? Something that's going to get dumped in the bin when it gets handed out. Remember, you want something that's going to make you feel good, right? It's not something that's going to make you feel bad. And more than anything, you don't want to be one of those people who says, I'm writing a book, but then you never actually finish one, right? And it's probably because of most of these points that you don't actually get it finished. In which case, you could just be annoyed with yourself that you still don't have a book to give out. You are not yet an author. You can't yet put author on your LinkedIn profile. So just stop and think about that just for a minute, right? Is that you? Is this the kind of stuff that's keeping you up at night? What resonates most with you? I'm just going to take a stop of water while you think about that. On the flip side of all of this, you could be ready and raring to go. You could be excited about the prospect, which is really cool too, right? That's really great too. If you're feeling excited, we all want to feel excited before we go into this journey. But most of the time, I would say, 99% of the time, these are the things that I hear from people. These are the things that are keeping people up at night. And so that means if you are feeling one or two or three or all of these things, you are absolutely not alone. Right? There are plenty of people who feel exactly the same as you, right? They're all here for the same reason. And what you're feeling right now is perfectly normal. And best of all, it's fixable. And I'm here to help you with that today. So for those of you who don't know me, right, I'm Kelly, right? I'm an editor and a book writing coach. So some of the books that I've helped produce, we've got books that have come from major publishers, self-published books, and books from an online program that I run. So I guess to describe what I do, I'm a bit of a gold miner, right? A prospector. So I help dig around the stuff that's in your head, searching through the rubble, looking for the little specks of gold, those nuggets of wisdom, the shiny stuff that needs polishing and brought into the world. But it wasn't always this way. So a few years ago, I was freelancing as an editor and I started getting a lot of people coming to me, we've already finished book manuscripts, right? First drafts. They'd spent months and months, sometimes even years, getting up at 4 a.m. every morning before work or rushing off to, go and meet with a client. They were sacrificing weekends, not playing with their kids or not going to sporting events just to get to this point, which is the point that my client Paul was at, right? This is the book that Paul ended up producing. I remember a particular conversation I had with Paul way back, early on in the journey. And he just shared his manuscript with me, right? Draft one that he'd spent all this time on his own putting together. So we hadn't even started working together yet. And he was like, Kelly, I got to know, right? I got to know what the hell have I done, right? I need desperately to understand what I've written. Is this thing I've just dedicated all my time, my energy, my willpower to? God, the willpower, the discipline of getting up and doing this. Is it any good? Please be honest with me because I've got no one else I can turn to, like no one else. So he said, I've got my friends, my family, I've got my mum and dad to congratulate me on writing. Hell, I've even got mentors to tell me I've done an awesome job. But I need an objective opinion. I need to know, is this the best I can do? I need someone who can connect the dots between my thinking and my audience, to potential clients who are my audience. I've got everything writing on this book, and I don't want to be ashamed of what I'm giving out. I want it to be huge publisher kind of quality. I want to see it in bookstores. I want people to say this changed my business, my work, my life somehow. So it turns out, this guy had been working in a vacuum. Can you understand that frustration that comes with that? Especially if you think that writing isn't a core strength of yours, right? Have you ever felt like that? So I had to be brutally honest with Paul. I said, honestly, hand on my heart, you need to go back right to the beginning, the very beginning, because you have to basically start again. God, can you imagine what that felt like, knowing that he had to go through the whole process again? Because you can get a copy editor. You can find someone who will absolutely just fix up your words and your language in what you've got, help you polish up and take it up out there to the world. But what you really have underneath here is a huge potential in your idea, and you're missing the mark. Like, this would literally be a game changer for people and for you. But in order to do that, you've got to trust me. So my superpower, if you like, is to bring out the best in every idea that I see. So I turn Clark Kent into Superman or Diana Prince into Wonder Woman. So to Paul, like, it was really painful for me to squash his dream. And I actually said that it's really painful for me to squash your dream. I know how hard this is to take, believe me. But what I'm looking at, what I'm reading, it isn't clear. There are far too many ideas jammed in. There isn't a clear overarching message. I've got no idea what you're about or why I should even care. You're not going to be able to sell this book. You're not even going to be able to hand it out, really. Ouch, like, that's a stake in the heart right there. Can you relate to that feeling? Have you ever had someone say they don't like your writing or they don't like your work? So we actually went back to the start. Paul had an outcome he wanted, and he wasn't going to take no for an answer. He wasn't going to take anything else. He committed to doing the work, and this is the result of that work, which is freaking amazing. Like, I seriously wish you could see what he first sent me and compare it with what he ended up with. So the start of his journey, and this is a really common thing that I see with a lot of other people. There are 5 mistakes which Paul had done before getting to, even what he called his first manuscript, right? He's never quite forgiven me for making him write what he says I made him write 2 books. Right? So there's 5 mistakes that I see that potential authors do all of the time. And that's what I'm going to run you through now. So I don't want you to make the same mistakes. So grab a pen and make some notes as we go through this, because this is the stuff you won't want to forget. The first mistake you need to be aware of is launching straight into a mind map, right? Have you ever done this? Anybody use mind maps? So this picture is the reason why it doesn't work for the kind of book that you want to produce, right? A book that has really clear, strong thinking and ideas. Mind maps are awesome for downloading absolutely everything you know onto a piece of paper or a whiteboard, right? They promote messy thinking and many, many disjointed ideas. So it's really hard to work out a logical sequence of ideas, and you end up jamming absolutely everything into one book. Or what happens is you realize that you can't possibly jam it all in. So that's when you start writing 2 books or 3 or 4 or 5 books, and then you don't actually finish one book. So that person who tells you, yeah, I'm writing 7 books, ask them to send you one first. Now, all of you have 7 books in you, but the truth is it's only when you focus on one and the idea for one, which doesn't come out of a mind map, that you can actually act on and finish producing that one book. Now, I'm also going to put picking up a pile of Post-it notes as a don't do type of mind map here. Because when you have Post-it notes in your hand, this is what you end up with. I know a lot of people that come to the webinar who love Post-it notes. Is this you? Because if you choose to do this, what impact does it have on your ability to communicate one powerful message that is easy to share and remember? Right? It's really hard to work out that one message. So what I want you to do is decide from this point on not to do that, right? I want you to focus on one idea, one valuable message. The second mistake I see is almost kind of doing the opposite, right? It's launching straight into writing without a clear, detailed roadmap for whatever you're writing. So I get a lot of people coming to me and they say, I've already got a half-written manuscript, but I'm stuck. And this is usually why. So you might have hashed out a vague outline using a breakdown of topics you want to cover. Then you get really excited about what you're doing. You're loving writing. And then you get to a point where you just get stuck. You've got absolutely no idea if whatever you're writing is any good. You can't bear to open your document again because you're lost in all of the words. You know that you've been repeating yourself over and over. It's just like verbal diarrhea on the screen. So I know I have done this some point in my life. And when I finally stopped and actually looked back on what I'd done, what I found was that I had nothing of value to show for it. So successful authors, multiple authors, they will tell you that they spend time just even thinking about what is ahead, what are they trying to achieve and how they will achieve it. Yeah, ever sat at your computer, even just to bang out what seemed like a simple blog post, and then you get lost in all the words and you end up with something you really weren't happy with? That happens to me all the time. So what I want you to do is be prepared to slow down, right? Make the commitment now to pause and think about what you're writing from this point on. That leads us to our third mistake, which is a really common one when you don't want to take 6 months to write a book. So you look at repurposing existing content. So let's say you take a compilation of 20 or so blog posts, because if you tally each of one of those up, then, well, that means you've already got 20,000 words, right? Which is essentially half a book. And sure, it's going to get you a book. But it's going to get you a book that is essentially a compilation of different conflicting ideas, right? It's a compilation of blog posts. There won't be any clear overarching message weaving it together, which means it's going to be really hard for your audience to engage and connect with it or with you. So I've seen lots of books like this, and I'd say that they're very high on ideas, but really low on impact. The secret here is that you need to do the big body of work first, right? Write a book, and then you can leverage blog posts, white papers, social media, all sorts of other content from the book. It's not the other way around. So what would happen, right, if from this moment on you chose not to do this? So what would happen if instead you saw your book as an opportunity, right? An opportunity of working on taking your business to the next level. Challenge yourself. Create something that would help you step into your own spotlight. Create messages that really mean something to someone else. That brings me to the fourth mistake, which is getting fixated on what you think your book should look like at the end once it's written. Right? This is like the trying to fit a square peg in a round hole approach. So some of you might already be thinking you want it to be a bunch of interviews from people. It needs to have a particular design or format. A big one that I hear is, it needs to be 45,000 words long, which is kind of like the average length of a book these days. Now, when you get fixated on word count, what you end up doing is writing waffle, because what you try and do is write anything and everything to try and make it up to that word count. So I can't even begin to tell you the number of manuscripts I've worked on like this, right? They come to me at something like 60,000 words. And when I send it back, they are like 15,000 words, no joke. And the author is just like, oh my God, like, what did you do? And when an author says to me, I wrote my book in Scrivener. Anybody familiar with Scrivener, the writing software? Alarm bells actually go off in my head. And this is usually why, because you can set this little counter thing that tells you when you've written a certain number of words. And what happens is when you write up to that word count without actually really understanding and thinking about what it is that you're writing, you dilute your content and your message, right? Not to mention your impact. So what would happen if you chose to stop doing that? Right? Commit to making your book something it isn't, right? Start just being curious and comfortable with the fact that you don't know what your book is going to be yet. How would this help you come up with something more creative, more impactful, and more influential? So, not trying to contain it within a certain parameter or box. Because that brings me to the last mistake, right? This is probably the most controversial, but it's a really important one that I wholeheartedly stand by. It's speaking out what you want to say and then transcribing it via rev.com or something like that. So for me, the reason why this doesn't work is that writing is a thinking process. So it's helping you think through ideas, formulate responses, work on your messaging, your meaning, and your clarity. So when people just speak out their book, which seems like a really productive idea at the start, especially if you are one of those people that says, I'm a speaker, but I'm not comfortable with talking, with writing. I can talk like crazy, but I can't write that down. What happens is you just talk and you talk off on tangents. It's very much like sitting down or just writing, except you're sitting down and talking. Now, the other thing is, while you think you're being productive, getting out all these words quickly, when it comes to actually looking back at the writing after it's been transcribed, it's so much more work going over everything, right? You've got to formulate logical and clear arguments. Even just reading back over a transcript sometimes is a nightmare. I know this from personal experience, right? When I get a transcript back from Rev, it's actually sometimes really hard to get your head into the stuff that's there. It can take you a while to organize what is the good stuff. Now imagine then taking that to an editor. What will happen is you've got to invest much more time, energy, and money at the editing stage to work on this kind of manuscript. So if you choose to do this, you are choosing the easy route. You are choosing the route that doesn't challenge you to do better. It does not push your thinking. It doesn't create the impact you actually could make. So I want to encourage you that there is a better way. There is a way that is going to get you a far better book, a better result, a better outcome, a better feeling than the one that's been put together like a hack. So who is ready to stop doing that? Are you prepared and committed to doing the best you can do, to doing better than you even ever thought possible? Right? I've been there. I've been guilty of these mistakes too. And in the right context, these approaches are awesome. I transcribe my interviews all the time when it comes to, typing up a short kind of interview that I've done with an author or something like that. Mind maps are awesome for generating business ideas, that type of thing. But if you really, truly want to save yourself time, heartache, and you don't want to ride around in circles and write rubbish, then I would love for you to commit to a new approach today. Are you prepared to make the writing process a hell of a lot easier and enjoyable? Right? You want to speed up the time it takes to become an influential author, like the one we desperately want to be, the ones that we have spoken about, the producing your best work, like The Alchemist. But there's one thing, one secret that I know works, and this has come from working with a lot of experts on real published books, either self-published or through major publishers like the ones I showed you with John Wiley. That secret, the secret to a successful book, to becoming an author that we admire, is a very well thought out plan. So without a plan, this is what your journey looks like. And I hope that you're getting some value from this so far, right? You might spend a really short amount of time on your mind map, your list, your outline, right? And then you launch into writing and you spend a huge amount of time pulling your hair out, right? Riding around in circles. Have you ever felt like that? When you're trying to write even something simple like that blog post or a LinkedIn article, sometimes even an email, and you just can't get that thing out of your head. You write it one way, then you change it and you write it another. Then you're not happy with that, so you change it again, right? It's frustrating, right? You get confused, you get lost in your own thoughts, you go through periods of, wow, this is amazing, and then periods of, feeling like a failure. Oh my God, this is terrible. It's a long, drawn out process of stress, anxiety, and probably lots and lots of washing if you're at home. This is when we really start to procrastinate, doing everything else except the writing. So I've got a confession. I used to be an A+ student in this. So if that's you, you are absolutely not alone. Now, on the other hand, if you have a well thought out plan, you'll spend more time in the planning stage, right? Distilling your thoughts, your ideas before you launch into writing and thinking about the content that you have. So I'm not saying that writing won't still be arduous, because it will, right? Writing a book is bloody hard work, right? It's a freaking awesome achievement. But with the right plan, you'll save time over the long term because you put in the effort at the start. So there's a quote that I love. I'm not sure who it is by. I heard it on a podcast. It's doing the hard things now makes life easier later. So this is what we're talking about. You'll use your plan to problem solve your issues, to get yourself back on track when you ride off on tangents. It'll give you the right constraint that you need so you won't go around in circles constantly doubting yourself, right? And it's going to save you time at the rewriting stage when you take your book to an editor, because they're going to be like, wow, you are like the best writer ever. Trust me on this. Great. But how do you get started with a plan? So the most important first step to a plan is going to influence the rest of the author journey. It is the question why. So why are you writing a book? Your why is your purpose for writing. It is the key to developing a strategy behind your book, behind getting it into the right hands of the right people. Because a truly smart book, one that is going to be remembered for good reason, means it is not a book for everyone and the cat, right? You need to be very strategic about what you're doing with your book. Why you're doing it is going to inform every other step and decision you make from this point on. The problem is that a lot of us think our why is one of these three things. So many of us think that we are writing a book to position ourselves as an authority in our field. So you're actually not. I'm going to bust that myth. This is the result of writing a great book. The result. It's absolutely what we're aiming for, but it is not why you are writing it. So the positioning, the credibility, the profile that you desire is going to come if you create a much more tangible goal for yourself. So I actually want you to think about how you're going to use your book in your business. Now, if you haven't been taking notes up to this point, then I suggest you get your pen and paper now, because what I'm about to walk you through is going to save you from writing 2 books like Paul did, right? You'll want to write down what resonates with you. What I'm about to share with you is an actual exercise from my Write Book publishing program. So it's something that I get every single one of my clients to do with me when they start working with me in whatever capacity, even one-on-one. Even if they come to me, if you're sitting there and you're thinking, I know exactly why I'm writing my book, right? You'll see why in a minute. So bear with me. There are 3 steps we are going to walk through. The first step that I'd like you to think about is, where are you now? So what types of clients do you have? You know, who are the people that you serve? Are they executives? Are they C-suite managers? Are they CEOs? Are they leaders? Are they entrepreneurs? What's the type of working you are doing with them? Right? So what are you known for and how are you helping them? Those very specific people. Dig deep on this. And how are you doing that? Are you running workshops? Are you doing one-on-one coaching? Are you mentoring? Are you running online programs? What are your key challenges right now in your business? So I'm getting you to think about your business. What are you struggling with? So, for example, for me, I am known for helping thought leaders, subject matter experts, business professionals distill their thinking, right? I primarily work one on one with people. It's a very intense process, face to face, Skype to Skype. And because I work very intensely with people, very intimately, it's very difficult to help more people, even though I really, really want to, right? It limits my capacity. It's always a juggling act to help more people, to share what I know and do for others every day. So, this is about being really honest with yourself and your current reality in your business. So, write that down first, like jot down a couple of notes about where you're at in your business right now. Then I want you to think about where you want to be. So, where do you actually see yourself in 6 months' time? What are you known for? What type of work are you doing now, and how are you delivering that? What are your goals, your ambitions? And we're still talking about realistic ones here because 6 months really isn't that far away. But it's very important to forward think like this because realistically, it is going to take you 6 months until you have a published, printed, physical book in your hands. So you have to make sure that what you get when you get it is relevant to where you're at. So too many people I know make the mistake of writing a book for where they are now, not where they need to be. So imagine again, right? 6 months' time. What are the types of clients you have? What's the type of work you're doing? Maybe you're doing more of something or less of something. Like, how has that impacted your whole life? What type of person are you now? What are the things people admire you for? So write that down. So lastly, I want you to compare your answers. What do you notice? How have things changed between step 1 and step 2? More importantly, how has your book helped you achieve your goal? So if I go back to me again as an example, in 6 months' time, I want to be able to help more people. I want to be able to empower other people to apply the things I know and do for others every day. I want you to have the confidence to plan, write, publish your own successful book. So a goal of mine is to grow my online course and accountability program, right? To help with this. I would write a book to give to people, to give them an overall understanding of my process, my methodology, and the way that I work. But it is the course, the program, that is where the actual implementation happens. It's where you implement the learning, where you actually do the work. So this becomes more than being a business card with thud value. So have you ever heard of that term before? A lot of people talk about a book in that terms, right? It's more than a business card with thud value. It's about having something very specific in mind for how you're going to use your book to achieve your business goals. So the common things when people actually start digging into their why is that they've got different conflicting ideas. So they say, I could write this or I could write that. This is why it's important to think about what you're doing in your business now and what your goals are for the 6 months' time, right? Is it about trying to attract people to a particular program that you're about to launch, trying to break into the corporate market? You might have a particular program that you want to deliver to an organization, trying to break into a public market to grow your audience and have more mass market appeal. Or is it about helping you transition out of your corporate job, so people who know who you are and what problem you solve for them and how you can help them, how they can buy you? It's actually about working that out. And it is about when you work that out that you can decide which book idea you need to prioritize. So when you know that goal, when you know why you're doing it, then you can prioritize the book idea that's actually going to help you do that. Because it's got to help with your business, right? A book is a business tool. So while you kind of sit on that and ponder that for a minute, I'm going to bring it to life with an actual real example. Dom's book, I actually don't have next to me, but this is Dominic Quartuccio's book, Design Your Future. Dom had a really successful high-flying career in financial services until he realized, he was bored, right? He's restless, trapped by his own making. So he left to pursue and design a life he really wanted to lead. And because of his background, at the time of us writing this book, he was very well known, working one-on-one with executives, people like him, helping them to design lives that they wanted to lead. But he wanted to make his stuff more accessible to more people. He wanted to run and sell more retreats, more public workshops and events. This is the book that helped him do that. So it helped him develop the retreat and the workshop. This is the beauty of getting a book like this right? It actually helps you develop content you will sell. Now he's really well known to become an author in the self-improvement space. He's done a TEDx talk on this content. He's got a really successful podcast, and we're about to work on his second book. And I love this quote from Dom and what this book helped him achieve. So, just one 30-minute phone call and he secured a 50 grand contract. So this is what the result of a great book helps you do. It's not about selling individual units to people. It's not about how getting 500,000 copies, $30 or whatever. One contract can get you 50 grand. So what I'm hoping you now see is that your book is the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. So it is your link from current reality to future ambition. Why you're writing is now your underlying strategy for your book. It's become a clear and tangible goal that you can work towards. It is how you transition from confusion, frustration, lack of confidence, and lack of conviction in what you're doing, and how you actually deliver that message to the people that you serve. So why you're writing a book is your first and most important step towards your best book and becoming an influential author. But it is absolutely not your last, right? The hard work is just beginning, right? This is the blank page that you've got to begin with. So I want you to remember what we've run through today, right? We want to stop mind mapping and focus on one idea. We want to avoid just writing anything and everything and have a clear roadmap for what we are writing. We don't want to repurpose old blogs or previous content. We want to create new and improved messages and meaning for people. If you really want to help people, you have to create meaning for them. We don't just want to hit the word count. We want to challenge ourselves to make and to do great work. We don't want to speak out anything. We want to write a congruent business message that has conviction, clarity, and power, right? Would you agree with this? Just think about all that content that we have covered so far. What resonates most for you? Focus, clarity, meaning, challenge, power. Now, it is impossible to teach you everything you need to know and to do to create this, to create the kind of book that we've been talking about, to become that type of person, the author you yearn to be, that achieves these 5 things. You can't do that on a 1-hour workshop. So that leads us to the next obvious question, which is, how do you actually implement these ideas we have discussed today? So it's not just another thing that you've learned and added to your tool belt. How do you plan, prioritize, and produce a book that helps you accomplish that goal, the reason why you are writing? How do you bring that to an audience and actually infect them to really create meaning in their heart? So I'd like to share the next steps for you, for those of you who are willing to do better, who want to do better, right? If you're ready to leave words, thinking, ideas behind to pass on to others, if you want to pass on those things to peers, colleagues, people you haven't even met before that desperately need your help, right? If you want to be that author that others pull off the bookshelf and say, you've got to read this. This book changed my life. It changed my worldview. If you're willing to push yourself and try something that you haven't done before, if you're willing to learn and be challenged, the next steps are for you. Because what we've walked through today is actual content from my Write Book online program. So this program was created from the process I use with each and every client I work with. It was designed to help you become the author you want to be without wasting your time or your money, suffering with stress, doubt, and indecision along the way. So in the first module, it's about figuring out why you're really writing your book. 9 times out of 10 when people walk through this process, even those that think they exactly know what they're doing, people discover there's something else that's driving them. So this is the first step, helping nail that so there is no doubt or indecision about the idea to take forward. Then we've got to look at your audience, right? Who are you really writing to so that you can figure out the most valuable problem you are solving for them? This is so crucial. In my experience, people write to the wrong problem. They write to the problem that people think that they have. Then we look at your market fit, right? So you can communicate why your solution is different to everything and everyone else out there. This is the most overlooked step of every author I know. It is critical, especially if you want to pitch to a publisher. Market fit is a must. So you've got to have an understanding of your market fit. It's only then that you're really ready to start thinking about your content, about structuring your content. And there's no more wondering about how you pull it together. I give you a proven structure for your entire book, as well as each and every chapter. So imagine that. Imagine how simple it now is to write your book, because all you have to do is write up a bunch of bullet points. This is so cool. It literally blows people's minds how easy writing your first draft becomes. Because that's what you do next, right? I give you the system and the timeline to write your first draft. You optimize your productivity. You actually hit a deadline instead of floundering around. The timeline is awesome if you are going through a publisher, because you can tweak those dates to make sure you hit your deadline. Trust me, no one looks favorably on you if you miss that. And you've got to learn to identify your writing voice. This is one thing that a lot of people don't talk about. It's so important for the right engagement, right? Figuring out the best approach you need personally as a writer, the tools, the strategies you need to overcome your stuck points. For example, like you could be really good at storytelling. So that's really great for entertaining your audience, but you'll also could end up wasting time and energy and effort writing a hell of a lot of waffle that never makes the cut. So these are the things that you've got to discover about yourself, how you work, how you write, and what you're very strong in and where your weakness is in order to create the right balance. Then it's about self-editing, learning to refine your ideas. This is probably the most valuable skill you will ever learn when it comes to writing, right? It's crucial before you take your work to a professional editor. This is what makes this course unique. It's not a taught skill anywhere. In a recent interview with Atomic Habits author James Clear, he said, the first draft is just your ideas down on paper. It's actually the rewriting that is the real writing. So that is what I show you in this last step. Now the journey doesn't just stop, right? It doesn't just stop once you've got a manuscript, right? There's going to be many more signposts that take you off en route along the way. So there's one thing that I've realized from participants in this program, and that's that you can't do any of this stuff on your own. You cannot get to the goal of an actual physical book on your own. You need a safe space where you can make informed decisions about your next steps, how you hire an editor, how you get a cover designed, how you print your book, how you market it. They need to be very wise investment choices that you can make based on your unique situation. Every best-selling author, hell, every successful business person, right, will tell you that you need a community of people. Not just those that are like-minded, but those that have what James Clear calls uncommon commonalities. Right? It means you need to hang out with people who have been there, who have done that, who have the same problem as you, who have the same smarts as you that you can look up to. He says, you want to join a tribe where your desired behavior is actually the normal behavior. So you need constant feedback, and objectivity is crucial in the writing process. Remember Paul, who wrote in a bubble? He didn't have any idea of what he'd done or whether it was actually any good. So that's why I've created this safe space for you. It's a very small, engaged Facebook accountability community. We all hang out together, past and present clients of mine, people in the program. Every week there's a live online coaching session. We discuss where you're at, what your challenge is, what you need to do to move over your next hurdle. I give you answers to questions, like what makes a great book title? How do you approach high profile influencers for testimonials in your book? How do you hire an editor or a designer? What do you need to know about paper stock? How do you pitch your idea to a publisher? That is the most popular question and probably the most invaluable coaching session I have ever done. And even, last week or the week before, we ran a 7-day writing sprint, which was freaking awesome, right? Because writing is a lonely and solitary experience. But it doesn't have to be. The 7-day writing sprint was amazing. It was mind-blowing how many people were finishing off manuscripts. They actually sent manuscripts to their editor. They uploaded LinkedIn blogs. It wasn't just about writing a book. It was open to whatever writing, whatever content. Because all of the writing that you do does contribute to your book, to getting your book done. It is about practicing the skill. So it is about keeping each other accountable to the goals that you've set for yourself. And you are never, ever, ever on your own in this community. Now, I also realize from the stuff that comes up with people that you could be thinking, well, yeah, that sort of sounds great, right? But I'm not ready. I'm not ready for a book just yet. I've only just started thinking about it. That is why I've decided to gift you lifetime access to the course. So you can do this when you're ready, as well as again and again, because becoming an author is a lifetime skill, right? No one ever writes just one book. I know that's kind of a scary prospect right now, but I give you immediate access to the online community. So as soon as you sign up, you start learning from the people that are in there straight away. You learn from their mistakes, which is going to save you a hell of a lot of time once you get onto your book journey, right? I find most people are in there for like 12 months. They're thinking, they're percolating, they're getting ready to write the book. Then suddenly there's a switch. Everything that they've been learning from the community kind of sinks into place, falls into place, the book gets done and dusted, and there you go. So soaking up the learning now is what helps you with later. And I also get, you may feel you need help with the actual writing. So you need one-on-one coaching because you don't feel confident about your writing. Obviously, one-on-one is way more expensive, and there is a wait list to work with me. So everything you need is contained within this program. It is also why I developed the writer type quiz, right? A tool from the program that helps you find out what kind of writing voice you have, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and giving you specific tips, tools, and techniques to help you with that, help you overcome your roadblocks. So if you're not confident about writing, this will 100% help. Now, many people want a deadline too. They say it's never going to get done without one. Deadlines and a system for and a commitment for writing absolutely is imperative, right? That's why a system is provided, an actual timeline that you will work towards. It's what I use with clients, so I know it works. And look, sure, you could still be struggling because it does require a lot of self-motivation for you to be proactive. So you can buy a self-imposed deadline. So you can get a one-on-one session with me where I will set you a deadline and you have to provide a certain amount of work by that deadline. Hit the deadline and you get a one-on-one session with me where I will critique your book plan, provide next steps. The results of these sessions have been invaluable. Like, people literally say it changes the trajectory of the whole book. So I look at what you've done and give you honest feedback. We have a one-on-one kind of recorded session about everything and set you up ready to get into that writing process. So there are no doubts in your mind about what you're putting together. You know that you're onto a winner with your idea. And if you don't have the cash to invest in another program right now, because I totally get that, right? Especially if you're trying to get sales in the door right now and you've already forked out money for other coaching programs or business schools to help. The thing that you don't realize is that making money means being able to communicate your best business message. You need to be able to address the problem that you are solving for your audience, not just trying to sell them on the solution that you have. So these are the things that you work on when you work on a book with me. It will help you sell your programs more effectively. You will develop programs based on the book content. Leverage blog posts and content for marketing. Get up on stage and present more impactfully. Remember, the better you work on communicating, the better your message is and the more influence you have as a result. So that's why I want to make this super affordable and achievable for you, especially if you're a first-time author, right? You don't need to break the bank on your first book. I've heard horror stories about people investing 30 grand into book programs with very, very, very little gain. Remember, the whole program is developed from a proven structure and process I use with clients. So I do know it works. These are some of the actual books that have come out of the program, out of the online program, just recently, right? So the thing that you have to understand with these books is that a great book has to have a strong foundation, right? Everything relies on the structure. It's just kind of like that analogy of baking a cake, right? If you sort of bake a cake by grabbing whatever is in the cupboard, right? You chuck it all in and then you hope it holds together. We know that that stuff doesn't work. It doesn't last. Or it either crumbles or it leaves a really, really bad taste in your mouth, right? So what you'll actually get as a result of writing a book with me is exposure. So these are some of the examples of media articles and TV and radio appearances from participants of this program, from the authors of these books that I've been showing you, right? Nicola Morris is killing it at the moment. She's like everywhere, visible. Yudan Shi, you might have seen Yudan around. Wendy actually got her book picked up. I helped her pitch her book to a publisher and it got picked up. So this can only happen when you've got that solid foundation in place. So Alicia McKay, the author of this book, kind of summed it up really nicely. You know, she said she was attracted to the program after seeing a lot of her peers successfully produce brilliant books using this methodology. So I couldn't afford to take any chances, she said. You know, as a result, I received a logical, powerful, and simple framework which sucked all the mystery out of the book writing process. It made an initially overwhelming job seem very doable early on. This is the framework, the foundation, and it's crucial if you do want to take it to get exposure and attention, because it is this that will impact your business and your bottom line results. And that feeling, remember, of having achieved what you wanted to achieve. So this is the value of the book that you will create on this program. You get all of this for just $14.95, right? To put that into context, that's the same price as just one-on-one critique and coaching session with me. So what I've done is put all of the advice, all of the hacks I know, everything I share with clients over a period of months that I normally work with them. I've put all of that into this price, into just $14.95, right? And you get access to this for every week for a whole year. So you get lifetime access to the program. That's lifetime access. 12 months access to the Facebook accountability community, weekly coaching with me on Facebook Live. So that's not just one session with me, but coaching with me every week for a year. You get videos, you get a timeline, structure, system, publishing cheat sheets and exercises to work through. Advice about editing, designing, printing, online publishing, PR, marketing, and much more, so that you can make wise investment choices based on where you're at in your business and, more importantly, with your budget. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there is a VIP option for people who want personal one-on-one time with me. So you will be given a deadline. You will need to meet certain criteria for that deadline. Then we can have a face-to-face where I can critique your work and help you take the next step. I will also give you access to my personal team. So a vetted list of trusted editors, designers, printers, people that I actually use, so that you can use them too and know with confidence that they're going to do a freaking awesome job. And if you are really ready to up the ante in your business, you know you want a publisher, you know you want to excel at whatever your expertise is, you can also ask me to help you pitch your idea to a publisher. Right? If you know that that is you and that you have the commitment it takes to do that, because it is a big job, right? It's a big undertaking. There is an option for that. But for most people, it's about thinking about the first book, right? Putting out something that's really good. If you want to put out something that is good as opposed to something that you think is good, right? Think about what you should invest in it to give you that result that you crave. Like any new skills, it takes time to learn, and you need that right support around you to fast track that process. Right? So if it resonates with you, if this resonates with you, I would love to have you in the group, right? We would love to be able to share everything that we've been doing with each other and help each other get you that goal of that book. So this is the link to go to, right? You'll be joining people like Wendy here, other successful authors like Janine Garner. I've got a number of already published authors in the community, even multiple authors. So Janine is a long-term client of mine. You might know her book, It's Who You Know, bestseller, with major publisher John Wiley. They're the kinds of people who are contributing, who are taking part in the community. So you can learn from people that have already paved that path, right? And they come back and learn again, right? Just because you've done one or two books doesn't mean that that's it and you know what you're doing. So that's another great reason and a resource for you to join and be with people who have those uncommon commonalities. And actually, there was a comment shared this week from Fiona Robertson on the community, who, she made a point in the weeks that she hasn't made solid progress on the program, just attending the Friday Facebook Live session has really helped her shift her identity to that of an author, and helps her get that one step closer, that 1% to the goal of getting a book. And don't forget the sprint too. The sprint was incredible. So we are going to definitely be running the 7-day writing sprint again. And that will be open to all writing, not just the writing on the book. Now, I also want to honor all of you and your time here today, right? I want to send you the actual worksheet from the program that goes over today's content. I'm going to send that around after the session. It is the first crucial step onto the author journey. Complete the worksheet and suddenly change from being a procrastinator to being a producer. That's how easy it is. That's the first step. And it's really important because remember, at the start today, we committed to taking action on the ideas here, right? You can learn all this stuff, but if you don't take one thing from today's session, you don't actually progress anywhere. So when you are clear on why you're writing, then you can take the next step and get clear on the most valuable things you have to offer your audience. Then you can take the next step and you get conviction behind why you are unique. Then you take the next step and you organize all that stuff in your head so it comes out on paper, on screen clearly and with impact. And then you start to deliver that in a way that we as your audience are going to thank you and remember you by, and remember you for good reason. So it's only then when you start changing from a mind-numbing author to a mind-blowing author. So this is how you become one of those authors that changes someone's life, like those ones that we discussed at the beginning today. So, what do you think? What was the most valuable thing that you got out of today's session? Think about that. Feed that back to me, because the if you don't take any action today, you won't progress any further. I really want to thank you for taking the time, for coming, for making the time today. Mark, apologize, have to step away. No worries. Come back to the last 5 minutes shortly. Really enjoyed and looking forward to working out my plan for my book. Thanks. No problem, Mark. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions. You know, as you're getting ready to sign off today, as you're getting ready to get back to your normal Friday routine, getting ready to head into the weekend, tuning out from everything we've talked about today, I just want you to take a moment to imagine someone in the future who has your book in their hands, right? Who is reading your book, your words, your wisdom, your story, right? Someone who is underlining little bits of it, dog-earing the pages, passing it on to friends. Because it's not actually the goal of having written a book that is going to make you feel amazing. It is looking back on the journey, the arduous journey that you took to get there. It is making others feel heard, feel understood, and feel helped because of that. Right? You feel amazing because you have just become that person, the author that you've always wanted to be. So again, I'd like to take the time to thank you all for coming today. Thank you, Mark. I hope that you got something valuable out of the session. Please let me know what that was and if I can help you any further. Keep in touch, reach out at any time, and I'm really looking forward to supporting you any way I can on the journey to becoming an author.